Okay, we're now gonna talk. This is our final article, then we're gonna go to the Twitter bazaar. And actually, okay, this is actually not an article even at all. This is just a video of Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni arriving into China to make some deals. So we're gonna read about the deals she made right now. Italy and China sign a 3-year action plan as Italian leader Meloni tries to reset relations. From what I heard, that she was not really the fan of China and its regime, so she cancelled some of the deals before, and now she's basically coming back to the Chinese and wants to renew those cooperation, is what I heard. Those are the rumors. Maybe the article will actually give us some data about it as well. There we go, we can continue. I just had to ban somebody who was promoting cheap beers. We don't want prostitutes here. So there we go. I'm gonna probably save the image and I'm gonna try to talk about this a bit. So yeah, we got Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni shakes hand with Chinese Premier Li Xiang in Beijing, Sunday 28th July 2024, ahead of a forum with Italian and Chinese business leaders. Meloni is on an official visit to China this week to try to reset the relations at time of both fears of a trade war with the European Union and continued interest in attracting Chinese investment in auto manufacturing and other sectors. So basically, business is not going too well for Italy, so she now needs China. Yes, she now needs China, and this will be in a nutshell with China and EU. EU will go full strong that they don't need China, only to realize that they need China after. Well, if Trump becomes a president, then he's going to impose tariffs, and EU will be like, alright, we need China bad. If Harris becomes a president, even then EU is still going to realize we still need that China products, period. Because China is already way too big for you to simply disconnect from China. Even the US, who are so big, big hands, big muscles on China, they still import like $500 billion worth of goods from China. So yeah, something to think about when they say that China is the threat to the USA. Italy and China signed a 3-year action plan on Sunday to implement past agreements and experiment with new forms of cooperation. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said on an official visit to Chinese capital. Meloni is trying to reset relations with China as fears of a trade war with the European Unions are interwoven with continued interest in attracting Chinese investment in auto manufacturing and other sectors. Also, my theory right now, she did not have her way in the European Parliament. She probably wanted different people on some positions in the European Commission. However, the center and the left pretty much decided themselves. She was left out, and so she probably realized her influence on the European Parliament won't be really that big. She won't be that influential, so she probably realized that the plan she had probably about making some backstage deals about, about bringing some new jobs to Italy and some money to Italy will simply not work because she doesn't have enough influence. So she basically now goes to China and makes a deal there instead. We certainly have a lot of work to do, and I'm convinced that this work can be useful in such a complex phase on a global level, and also important at multilateral level, she said in remarks at the start of a meeting with Chinese Premier Li Xiang. Her 5-day visit comes several months after Italy dropped out of the China Belt and Road Initiative, a signature policy of Chinese leader Xi Jinping to build power and transportation infrastructure around the world to stimulate global trade while also deepening China's ties with other nations. So yeah, only several months after dropping out of the initiative, she basically goes back to the Chinese. This is exactly what it looks like. She did not got the influence she was hoping for, and therefore she realized, well, yeah, I'm not gonna, I need to get that money from other sources. So yeah, back to China. Because remember, Meloni, her Fratelli d'Italia are right-wing, and the European Commission and the ruling European Parliament ideology is left-wing / center. So they do not really share much in common with Meloni. So she has to now go to China because she's not going to get any of those backstage deals she was hoping for. Still, it remains keen to pursue an otherwise strong economic relationship with China. Stellantis, a major automaker that includes Italy's Fiat, announced in May that it had formed a joint venture with Leapmotor, a Chinese electric car startup, to begin selling EVs in Europe. Yes, China makes good EVs and cheap EVs, and EU is very scared that China would simply roll over the European EVs. In reality, even Europe can make cheap EVs. However, Audi, Mercedes, Rolls-Royce, Ferrari, Bugatti, Lamborghini, and other brands, you pay for the brand. The brand makes a lot of the price that you actually pay for. If those companies were to actually reduce their brand price, then those EVs would probably cost a little bit less, to be mild. That's my theory. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? And don't compare to Tesla. Tesla is just Tesla. Also remember that the governments were they were investing a lot into the electric vehicles. So I mean, this seems a little bit strange that EU and the US can compete with the prices of the Chinese EVs, but hey, who knows? Addressing Italian and Chinese business leaders after the meeting with Meloni, said that China's push to upgrade its economy will increase demand for high-quality products, expanding opportunities for cooperation between companies from their two countries. He pledged to open Chinese markets further, ensure that foreign companies get the same treatment as Chinese ones, and create a transparent, predictable business environment, responding to frequently heard complaints from businesses operating in the world's second largest economy. At the same time, we hope the Italian side will work with China to provide a more fair, just and non-discriminatory business environment for Chinese companies doing business in Italy, he said. Meloni told the business leaders that the two sides had signed an industrial collaboration memorandum that includes electric vehicles and renewable energy, which she described as sectors where China has already been operating on the technological frontier for some time and is sharing the new frontiers of knowledge with partners. Electric vehicles have also become a symbol of growing China-EU trade tensions, with the European Union imposing provisional tariffs of up to 37.6% on China-made electric vehicles in early July. The two sides are holding talks to try to resolve the issue by an early November deadline. Oh yeah, EU is thinking they will simply tariff China and China won't do anything about it. Very silly. China will do something about it, and the common people are going to struggle. Oh yeah, by the way, this is very hypocritical from the EU. Oh yeah, we want you to have EVs, we want you to not drive these, fossil fuel vehicles. We want you to be green. So when China provides us with those cheap vehicles, EU is like, no, how dare you? How dare you provide cheap vehicles for our slaves? That's unacceptable. Our slaves will only pay at least 50,000 for an EV, minimum, period. That was a hyperbole, although not as big as you would thought. Meanwhile, China launched an anti-dumping investigation into European pork exports. Nations like Denmark and I think Spain export a lot of pork into China, and if China was to cancel it, well, their income would they would be hit by by this quite a bit, and it could theoretically threaten a lot of jobs. And hey, it would cut off some income from the, from Chinese buying power. Just days after the EU announced it would impose tariffs on the Chinese EVs, Meloni, who arrived in Beijing on Saturday, is making her first trip to China as Prime Minister. She has held talks with Li before a meeting in New Delhi last September during the annual G20 summit, which brings together the leaders of 20 major nations. Italy's decision to join the Belt and Road Initiative in 2019 appeared to be a political coup for China, giving it an inroad into Western Europe and a symbolic boost in then raging trade war with the United States. But Italy says the promised economic benefits didn't materialize, and its membership created a friction with other Western European governments and the United States. Basically with the United States, who then influenced the Western European governments, period. Somehow I feel like the Europe really did not care. I mean, hey, more trade with China and other nations in that direction, like it's more money. So I mean, I don't know why EU would be that hesitant. And it's not like they don't need money, they need money. Just look at the deficit some countries are running, like France. And especially if France will go full bazookas onto spending money like the left-wing government wants, then they're gonna need a lot of money. So, I mean, yeah, in a sense that would help them to at least a little bit close the deficit, not that much. I mean, it's a difficult situation. So this was the article. She came back growing after she left the Belt and Road Initiative. It's a humiliation for her. Probably the Chinese wondered, I mean, there won't be a humiliation like the Erdogan when he came back growing to Putin in some time after he invaded the northern Syria, and when his drones were around above Libya. However, I don't think this is good for her political presence. I don't think this is good for her political presence. You showed muscles against China, and then months after you did not get the power you were envisioning in the European Parliament, you came back growing. That is kind of humiliating when you think about it. So I don't think Meloni I don't think she's stomaching too well. So yeah, this was the final article.